Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Marine X back at it again. Listen, I had a couple of thoughts in regards to this Uvalde, Texas shooting. It just keeps evolving. I don't know how I feel in regards to a lot of the things that's like spinning around it. You know, just to take this piece by piece. So one thing that I kind of have an issue with is there's this big conspiracy theory going around that this is an entire false flag. I'm an evidence-based guy, and I don't believe that investigations should be open without evidence. The fact that people are going around and they're talking about that the Uvalde shooting could have been a false flag, it can be your opinion, but you gotta be careful with that type of stuff because, in my opinion, there legitimately are grieving families. And no, I have not seen the bodies, as some people say. For me, the evidence that has been presented is more evidence than the false flag evidence. So, I'm not the biggest fan of that. And I don't even address the trolls who say that it's a false flag because you haven't presented evidence that it is other than speculation. Next, with the Uvalde shooting, there is more and more issues when it comes to the mayor, the former chief of police. He's now, I think, on the city council. So apparently it was the tactical unit that shot the shooter, not an off-duty police officer. That was the original story. So we learned that. I have no clue why the former chief of police is no longer cooperating with the Texas Rangers and the DPS who are in charge of the investigation of what happened down there. And his excuse was, he told CNN that he would give answers about his actions, but it's not appropriate to do so right now because the families are grieving. Once we allow the families to stop grieving, then I'll give answers. Weird wording, first off. Right. And I think he just misworded that. Right. Because you don't allow people to stop grieving. It's as if you're giving them a bereavement period from work and you're like, OK, that's enough. It's enough bereavement. Let me tell you why I did what I did that day. So that's weird. And finally, another update with the Uvalde shooting is that these parents are starting to retain lawyers. One father, he lost his child in the shooting. He has retained a lawyer who successfully sued the gun manufacturers after the Sandy Hook massacre. They're coming after the gun manufacturers. They're gonna be coming after the former chief of police. The mayor, I don't know what the mayor has going on, seems to be shielding the former chief of police. All these false flag conspiracies. Just slow down, pump your brakes. I think the biggest difference in 2022 versus the 80s and 90s is we have too much damn media. You can go out there and get on 4chan, get on these chat rooms, get on Reddit, get on Facebook, which is the most trash area to get some news, in my opinion. Wherever you want to go, and you can form this opinion about something. Just pump your brakes. Wait till we get more. I know you are heavily for or against something when it comes to gun reform and gun control, but let's just see what we have. Let's just see what happens before we make any sweeping conclusions.